that we had the surgery. He walked in the recovery room, and I looked at his face.
Hollywood is a place of bright, burning stars and fleeting moments. It's a town where love stories are often just part of the script, and happy endings are sold as part of the illusion. But every now and then, away from the cameras and the red carpets, a real story of love, strength, and unimaginable heartbreak unfolds, a story more powerful than any screenplay. This is the story of Robert Urich and Heather Menzies. They were two stars from completely different Hollywood worlds who found each other and built a life that would be tested in the cruelest way imaginable. He was the rugged TV hero everyone could count on, the man who brought characters like Dan Tana and Spencer into our living rooms. She was the sweet, singing Von Trapp daughter from one of the most beloved movies ever made. Together, they looked like a picture of Hollywood success. But their seemingly perfect life was just the prelude to a devastating fight for survival, a battle that would redefine their legacy and end in a second, final tragedy that was as swift as it was heartbreaking. To the world, Robert Urich was the tough guy star of Dollar and Spencer, For Hire, and Heather Menzies was the angelic Louisa Von Trapp from The Sound of Music. But behind the public personas was a private, 27-year love story that would end in a way no one saw coming. It's a story of two people facing down a rare and aggressive cancer, only for a second, even more shocking tragedy to strike years later. This isn't just about fame or movies, it's about a love that held on through unbelievable pain and a legacy of courage that shines brighter than any award. To really feel the weight of their tragedy, you have to understand just how high they flew. Robert Urich was the classic American success story. Born December 19, 1946, in the small steel town of Toronto, Ohio, he was the son of working-class parents. He wasn't born into Hollywood royalty, he earned his spot with pure grit. Urich was a gifted athlete and went to Florida State University on a football scholarship, a path that seemed to be leading to the sports field, not the silver screen. But he had the heart of a performer. He switched his major to communications and later got a master's degree from Michigan State. His journey into acting was a steady climb. He paid his dues with guest spots on popular 70s shows, where his handsome face and easy charm made him a reliable presence. But his role as Officer Jim Street in the 1975 series S.W.T. is what really put him on the map. To land these tough guy roles, he completely committed, bulking up his athletic frame to become a believable action hero. This wasn't just a job for him, it was a craft he worked tirelessly to perfect. He had a natural charisma, an approachable strength that audiences loved. He didn't just play heroes, to a lot of people, he felt like one. Then, in 1978, he landed the role that made him an icon, private investigator Dan Tana in Dollar. The show was a huge hit. Running for 3 seasons and earning Urich 2 Golden Globe nominations. Robert Urich had officially made it. While Robert was building his career, Heather Menzies was already a piece of movie history. Born in Toronto, Canada, on December 3, 1949, she had a nomadic childhood, moving between Canada, the US, and the UK. At just 14 years old, with zero professional acting experience, she was cast as Louisa Von Trapp in the 1965 masterpiece, The Sound of Music. The role made her famous overnight. As one of the 7 Von Trapp children, she sang her way into the hearts of millions. The film was a cultural phenomenon, winning 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. Being in a film that beloved creates a legacy, but for a young actress, it's also a challenge. How do you escape such an iconic role? Heather handled the years after The Sound of Music with grace, appearing in shows like Dragnet, Bonanza, and Marcus Welby, M.D. She was determined to show her range. In 1973, she made a bold move to reshape her image by posing for Playboy in a pictorial cheekily titled, Tender Trap. The move was controversial, it horrified her parents, but it was a declaration of independence. It led to roles in sci-fi films like Piranha and the short-lived TV series Logan's Run. She was a talented actress and a trained ballerina who, according to her son, just loved living her life to the fullest. Here were two people on parallel tracks of success, one a rising TV star, the other a film icon figuring out her next move. They were from different worlds, but their paths were about to cross. The story of how Robert and Heather met feels like something out of a movie, but its realness is what made it so special. In 1974, they were both cast in a TV commercial for Libby's corned beef hash, playing a young couple getting married. Surrounded by cameras, they acted out a life together, a playful preview of the nearly 3 decades of genuine partnership that was to come. For Heather, who was recently divorced, it was just another day at work. But Robert's sincerity and warmth quickly broke through. Robert, who had also been married once before, was instantly smitten with Heather. The connection was immediate and powerful. He later said that after their first date, they were pretty much inseparable. It wasn't a dramatic, public Hollywood romance. It was quieter, deeper. It was a connection built on mutual respect and a real understanding of the pressures of their business. Friends and family saw it right away. Robert's own father supposedly predicted after meeting Heather that she was the woman his son was going to marry. He was right. On November 21, 1975, a little over a year after getting married for a corned beef hash commercial, they made it real. They tied the knot and started what would become one of Hollywood's most solid and understated love stories. Their marriage wasn't about the glitz of their careers, it was grounded in a shared dream of having a normal, stable family, but their path to building that family was marked by private heartbreak. Heather became pregnant 3 times, and each time, it tragically ended in a miscarriage. The pain of those losses was immense. Faced with that sorrow, they made a decision that would define their lives and strengthen their bond. They chose to build their family through adoption. They adopted 3 children, a son, Ryan, and 2 daughters, Emily and Allison. Their home became a sanctuary. While Robert's career exploded with Vegadollar and later Spencer, for hire, he always made it clear that his family came first. He and Heather were a true team. He actively included her in his professional world, not because he had to, but because he wanted to share his success with her. She made guest appearances on his shows, a public reflection of their private unity. Heather, in turn, consciously chose to step back from her own career. After a few roles in the 80s, she focused on raising their children, creating the stable, loving home they both craved. It might have been a sacrifice for her career, but it was a choice made out of love and commitment to the family they had fought so hard to create. Their love story was a quiet rebellion against the Hollywood norm. No scandals, no public fights. Just a deep, real affection that was obvious to anyone who saw them together. For 27 years, they navigated career highs and the simple joys of family life as a team. They were building a life that felt solid and permanent. But a storm was gathering, one that would test their love and their strength in a way they never could have imagined. By the mid-1990s, Robert Urich was a TV institution. He had successfully moved from the slick Vegas nights of Vegadollar to the gritty Boston streets of Spencer, for hire, a role that perfectly fit his persona, tough but thoughtful, strong but sensitive. He had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and had even won an Emmy. In 1996, he was starring in a new series, The Lazarus Man, playing a character who mysteriously comes back from the dead. That title would soon become deeply ironic. In July of 1996, Robert's world was shattered. He was diagnosed with synovial cell sarcoma, a rare and terrifyingly aggressive cancer that attacks the body's soft tissues. For an actor who built his career on his physical vitality, it was a devastating blow. The news could have sent him into a private battle behind closed doors. But Robert Urich wasn't the kind of man who retreated. In a move that was both brave and completely in character, he went public with his diagnosis. At a time when cancer was often spoken about in whispers, especially in Hollywood, Robert refused to hide. He faced the public not as a victim, but as a fighter. By announcing his illness, he took the first step in what would become his life's most important role. A public advocate for cancer awareness, the physical toll was immense. He went through multiple surgeries, grueling chemotherapy, and radiation. The journey was a relentless cycle that left him weak, but it never broke his spirit. He kept working whenever he could, refusing to let the disease define him or end the career he loved. He even hosted a medical documentary series in 1997 and returned to star in Love Boat, The Next Wave in 1998, the same year he was told he was in remission, but his fight was bigger than just his own survival. He used his fame as a megaphone to shout about a disease most people had never heard of. He spoke openly about the fear, the pain, and the hope that came with the battle. "We can't always control what happens to us," he said in one speech, "but we can always control how we react to it." He and Heather became a formidable team in this new fight. They established the Heather and Robert Urich Fund for Sarcoma Research at the University of Michigan, determined to speed up research for this rare cancer. Robert became a national spokesperson for the American Cancer Society and won awards for his advocacy, including the Gilda Radner Courage Award. He even donated his $125,000 winnings from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire straight to cancer research. This period was a trial by fire for their family. Heather was his rock. She was the quiet force behind the public hero, managing their home, taking care of their kids, and holding everything together while her husband fought for his life. Their teenage children watched their father's incredible courage and their mother's unwavering love. Then, there were moments of hope. In 1998, after 2 years of brutal treatment, Robert was declared cancer-free. He went back to work with a new fire, even making his Broadway debut in the musical Chicago. For a while, it seemed like he had truly beaten the odds. But synovial sarcoma is a relentless enemy. In the fall of 2001, the cancer came back. He revealed that doctors had found new lumps, but he remained optimistic. This time, however, the disease was more aggressive. The battle he had fought so bravely was entering its final, heartbreaking stage. Even in his final months, Robert Urich's fighting spirit never faded. He kept working, filming his last TV movie, Night of the Wolf, which aired the night before he died. In his final week, he was hospitalized with breathing problems. His body, worn down by years of fighting, was finally giving out. On April 16, 2002, with Heather and their 3 children by his side, Robert Urich died. He was only 55 years old. The grief from Hollywood and the public was immense. He was remembered not just as a talented actor, but as a genuinely good man, a devoted husband, a loving father, and a courageous advocate who faced death with grace. For Heather and their children, the loss was a chasm that could never be filled. They had lost their anchor. In the middle of her grief, Heather Menzies Urich made a promise. She would not let her husband's fight be for nothing. She had stood by him through every painful moment, and now, she would carry legacy forward. After my husband lost his battle on April 16, 2002, she later wrote, "I vowed that I would make it my life's mission to continue to fight for his dream and vision, a world where the word cancer is simply a memory of a war we have won." This vow became her new purpose. She poured her heart into the cause they had championed together, founding the Robert Urich Foundation to raise money for cancer research and support patients and their families. Having been through the logistical nightmare of traveling for treatment, one of the foundation's main goals was to help families with housing costs so they could stay together near hospitals. It was a mission born directly from her own experience. For 15 years, Heather was the driving force behind the foundation. She became a tireless fundraiser and a passionate advocate, picking up the torch her husband had been forced to set down. It was her way of channeling her profound loss into positive action. In many ways, their partnership continued. Though Robert was gone, she was making sure his spirit of generosity lived on. Their children were deeply influenced by this legacy. Watching their father's illness and their mother's advocacy inspired their son, Ryan, to become a doctor, a direct continuation of his family's commitment to healing. Heather's life after Robert's death was defined by her incredible resilience. She was a mother, a grandmother, and the leader of a foundation making a real difference. She had faced the unimaginable and emerged with a new mission, never knowing she was about to face her own final battle with the very disease she had fought so hard against. For 15 years after Robert's death, Heather Menzies Urich carried their shared legacy with grace. She had navigated the profound loss of her husband, raised their children, and dedicated herself to the fight against cancer. She was a survivor, a pillar of strength who had even overcome her own battle with ovarian cancer. She seemed to have the same resilience that had defined her late husband, but in late November 2017, the story took a shockingly cruel twist. Heather was diagnosed with glioblastoma multiforme, one of the fastest-moving and most aggressive brain cancers there is. The diagnosis was terminal. For a woman who had spent over a decade fighting cancer in her husband's name, to be struck down by such a devastating form of the disease felt like a particularly harsh blow of fate. The illness moved with terrifying speed. Unlike Robert's long, 6-year battle, Heather's fight was over in weeks. She spent her final days at home in Canada, surrounded by her children. According to her son Ryan, she faced the end with the same courage that had marked her whole life. She was an actress, a ballerina, and loved living her life to the fullest, he said. She was not in any pain, but, nearly 4 weeks after her diagnosis of terminal brain cancer, she had enough and took her last breath. On this earth. Heather Menzies Urich died on December 24, 2017, Christmas Eve. She was 68 years old. The timing added another layer of tragedy to the family's story. She was gone just 4 weeks after her diagnosis. There was no time for a long fight, no years of advocacy like there had been with Robert. There was only a sudden illness and a swift, peaceful end. Her death was the final, tragic chapter in a love story defined by both immense joy and profound sorrow. A husband and wife, both taken by rare, aggressive cancers. A woman who dedicated her life to fighting the disease, only to become its victim. It felt like a story too sad to be true, a twist of fate too cruel to fully comprehend. The story of Robert Urich and Heather Menzies is a powerful reminder of what really matters: love, resilience, and the ongoing fight against cancer. The foundation they started continues their important work. If their story touched you, consider learning more about organizations dedicated to sarcoma and glioblastoma research. If you have a story of love and strength that has inspired you, please share it in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that honor Hollywood's most unforgettable legacies. The legacy of Robert Urich and Heather Menzies isn't just a Hollywood tragedy. While their endings were undeniably heartbreaking, their lives were a testament to something much bigger. Theirs is a story of a deep and lasting love, a 27-year partnership that was the anchor of their lives. It's a story of incredible courage against a devastating disease, a battle Robert fought in the open, inspiring millions and raising crucial awareness for a rare cancer, but most importantly, it's a story of a legacy that refused to die. After Robert passed, Heather turned her grief into a mission, continuing his work and making sure his fight would help others for years to come. The Robert Urich Foundation became a beacon of hope, a real-world result of their shared commitment to making a difference. Their influence also lives on in their children, especially their son Ryan, whose career in medicine is a direct extension of his parents' compassion. They were so much more than the tough guy actor and the girl from The Sound of Music. They were partners, parents, and fighters. They faced unimaginable hardship not with despair, but with a determination to create something good from their pain. The tragic irony of their deaths doesn't take away from the power of their lives. If anything, it highlights just how important their mission was. Robert and Heather Urich left behind more than a list of movies and TV shows. They left a legacy of love, courage, and a relentless dedication to fighting for a world with less suffering, a legacy that continues to inspire long